This week's Extra Life on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by EXA. EXA brings the latest technology to gamers, offering the most immersive products for the ultimate gaming experience. They've compiled the best elements of cutting-edge ENC tech, the latest in Bluetooth 5.0 and 7.1 surround, plus extra features into their headsets so everyone can enjoy a sensational gaming experience. And they've got headsets for Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC. Plus, they won't break the bank. Learn more about the headsets that are available and any current promotions by going to f5live.tv/exa. If you're a fan of conspiracy theory style stories, have we got one for you here. So, the Smash World Tour, for those who don't know, is a World Tour. It's an international competition of Super Smash Brothers. It is put on by an organization outside of Nintendo. They get the license agreement from Nintendo to be able to put it on, to use the logos and make it an official partner event. There's regionals. It comes together for a final at the end of the year. The winners get bragging rights and a lot of money. This week, the organization announced that the finals, only the finals, because everything else has already happened, that the finals for 2022 and the entire 2023 event had been canceled because of Nintendo. Now, they went on and said a lot of things. Called out Nintendo and another organization, but essentially what they said was, we're canceling the finals and all of 2023 because Nintendo refuses to renew the license, and too bad, so sad, bye-bye. And then crickets. Kind of everybody involved went a little quiet. Couple days, and Nintendo responded publicly to what was going on. And Nintendo said, not quite. Here's what we've got. They said Nintendo's decision was solely based on our assessment of the proposals submitted by the SWT and our evaluation of their unlicensed activities. This decision was not influenced by any external parties, such as Panda Global, which we'll get to in a second. Any partner that we grant a license to has to meet the high standards we require when it comes to the health and safety of our fans. It's also important that a partner adheres to brand and IP guidelines and conducts itself according to professional and organizational best practices. Then something interesting. When we notified the SWT that we would not license their 2022 or 2023 activities, we also let them know verbally that we were not requiring they cancel the 2022 finals event because of the impact it would have on players. Thus, the decision to cancel the SWT 2022 was, and still is, their own choice. Now, couple pieces of information come up here. Why would they cancel an event that was already scheduled, that all of the build-up had already happened, and people had arranged travel, accommodations, all of that was already in place because it's the finals for 2022, and even if you're watching this live, it's December. Not much 2022 left. So everything was already in place. Why would they cancel 2022? Well, you may have noticed that Nintendo mentioned Panda Global. Why for on that? Well, turns out Panda Global is the other big competitor. And Smash World Tour, had called them out specifically, having said that this other organization was privately sabotaging the event by going to sponsors and partners and telling them that the event was canceled or was going to be canceled very soon. Why would they say that? Did they know ahead of time before SWT knew? Did they make it up? There's definitely a lot of questions. It's a dirty space, right? The esports world is a pretty dirty space. There's a lot of unpleasantness that happens in it, which is unfortunate because it's supposed to be games, right? And yet here we are with like a weird winding conspiracy theory of an organization undermining. If they did, I would understand why they canceled the finals. Maybe they lost their sponsors, right? What do you think here, Abram? Have you been following this at all? Because it's been a topic of conversation around here.
This not a lot, but obviously I read the story. In fact, it's kind of funny because my son and I were reading this story right as I was putting him to bed. And I was like, look what we're talking about tonight. And he was like, oh, hey, why did they cancel it? If Nintendo said it was okay, why did they cancel it? And I'm still trying to figure that one out. However, this whole thing is seedy, and it kind of makes me think of like George Thorogood, Bad to the Bone, and like there must be a bunch of old men smoking in the pool hall watching the Smash Brothers or whatever being played. I think that Panda Global might have reason to say that well, first of all, they've got motive, but they might also say, well, Nintendo told us that they're not going to let SWT do this, so we're telling you to cancel it. I mean, in a way, they kind of pulled the rug out from SWT, because doesn't that mean that SWT can never, like after this, they can't exist anymore, right?
Basically, it's certainly not this event. They might be able to go. The organization might be able to put on other events under other names, but this is certainly over.
But I mean, it sounds like, so what I don't know, and I guess if you want to look at Nintendo's position here charitably, they don't want to say why they don't, if there are really lots of legitimate reasons that involve health and safety and unprofessional behavior. They don't want to just sit there and like diss SWT line by line, like, well, this is not safe and this is not professional and all that. On the other hand, by saying all of that stuff without actually backing it up with any facts or data, then they are really impugning the reputation of this organization that runs SWT without providing any evidence. Like, what do they mean by health and safety? It didn't even say they didn't meet it, right? They said any partner that we grant a license to has to meet the high standards we require when it comes to health and safety of our fans.
Right. What does that mean? Did they meet it? Did they meet it or not? They have to. Great. Did they? Is that relevant? Or are you just flooding the field,
the zone, with things that they had to meet, right?
Yeah. So are you just info dumping like what China was doing on Twitter this week, or are you?
It's also important that partner adheres to brand and IP guidelines and conducts itself according to professional and organizational best practices. So if you are trying to read between the lines here, it sounds like, although in a way that where they have plausible deniability, right?
We're not saying
they're saying, we're not saying that you're unprofessional, but we're very strongly implying that you were unprofessional,
or that you're stealing our
unsafe,
or that you're stealing our intellectual property.
Right. I mean, I don't know what the brand and IP.
I'll tell you, knowing Nintendo, their chiefest concern is the brand identity.
Right. Well, I mean, what does that exactly mean in the context of one of these events? Meaning like they have signage or something like that,
Maybe
and the signage might be
dis-
showing something they don't like.
or displaying the Nintendo logo without them being a partner. Because everything up until now has been unofficial. Nintendo is now licensing their content for competitions, and they're not licensing this one. And
That's
so,
actually
so if they're using a Nintendo logo, or if, I don't know, maybe accidentally, when the game is coming up, the Nintendo logo shows, and they don't have permission to show it, maybe they're going to complain about that. Nintendo and Disney have a lot of similarities when it comes to the weirdnesses behind their brand
so.
eccentricities. I don't think Nintendo's ever sued a preschool like Disney did, but I wouldn't put it past them.
So this is actually raised an interesting sort of First Amendment fair use question, because my son asked, and I didn't have a great answer for him. Why did they need Nintendo's permission in the first place
Mm-hmm.
to run this event? And I said, well, like, I guess it's because they're going to have Nintendo branding all over the place, but on the other and they're making money off of it. But on the other hand, as we've talked about on prior shows, people streaming of content, streaming of a Nintendo game has generally been allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
There was a
so
time
why would
where
a competition,
they were stepping on it, though.
right? But I guess the question is like, under what basis does Lenovo have, does Nintendo have the right to say no? Why can't I just set up like, if I set up a bunch of computers next of, I don't know, I guess
Switches.
a bunch of consoles, switches next to each other with a bunch of screens, and then I film people playing on them, and I give somebody a prize. How is that any different than me playing it at home or playing it on Switch?
I do it all the time. At Strike, we have legitimately we have a monthly Smash Brothers event,
So
and
why do they need permission?
it's a fair question. I don't know if it has to maybe do with scale, or what, because they haven't had it before. That was made clear, right? Uh,
Well, you said
no, wrong.
2021 they were doing it, right?
Nintendo's decision was solely based on our assessment of the proposals submitted and our evaluation of their unlicensed activities. Which means
Right.
that this was operational without Nintendo's seal of approval. Now, perhaps there's something in the oh, you know what? All right, let's think about this. It's software, right? Video game is
Mhm.
software. Software has a user agreement. Maybe the user agreement has something about scale, or I don't know.
I mean, I think like a lot of licensing things, it's really a matter of whether or not you would get caught. Maybe like,
True.
in, in
Which
other
comes
words,
down to
like,
scale.
right. So like, my guess is that if you sent an email to Nintendo or called them or like, hey, I have a tournament that I do in my, with my friends, and I do it in this open space as part of a community, they might be like, well, hey, now you need our permission.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you didn't ask, they probably wouldn't notice or care because
Right.
it's small potatoes. Now, this place, they're calling themselves Smash World Tour, so the very name of it is, I guess, at least implied intellectual property. I mean, the word
Sure.
Smash World Tour is probably not copyrighted, but Smash, and they're playing Smash Brothers. I
Right.
mean,
Brand
I
confusion.
guess
They could argue brand confusion because it
I
sounds
mean,
official.
the other thing is, if you're somebody like Smash World Tour, I'm going to guess that you don't have a lot of lawyers and a lot of money for lawyers. So
Potentially.
maybe the threat of litigation is more than enough, because you
To try
don't
and come into
want
compliance.
you don't want to have to fight Nintendo in court. So
Because
I guess the threat
they
of,
are brutal litigators.
I'm sure, and I'm also sure that a small company, you know, I don't know how big they are, but I'm sure they're not that big. Um, like a small organization cannot afford. I mean, lawyers are very expensive. You'd need
Especially good ones.
an army of lawyers to fight such a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the type of thing that like you would get, like the Electronic Frontier Foundation or somebody trying to support you with. Um,
That's
I don't
interesting.
know that it's. I don't know like if it's a major digital rights issue. But you know,
Might
to
be.
the something that we talked about, to the thing we talked about previously about like licensing, like whether or not you actually have the right to stream your gameplay. Like, I don't think that that's actually been formally established, right? It's just that most game publishers have made it clear that they don't want to try and sue streamers,
Right.
because this is not good for them.
Right. And people streaming their games is good for them.
Right. But they didn't say that's an absolute right. They're just
Right.
choosing not to
True.
enforce it
Because
there.
Nintendo,
So
because Nintendo essentially did try to enforce it, and they tried to enforce it via Twitch, and Twitch complied. Post,
right.
I think post the Amazon purchase, so Amazon complied.
Right. Well, they don't want to, want the lawsuit, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I think it's probably that they don't want the lawsuit. Why did they cancel the final event that they were allowed to do? I mean, maybe the sponsors had all pulled out. I mean,
Either
uh,
because it's now known and not licensed, which is totally possible, or because Panda Global, which from what I understand, pure speculation, not trying to throw anybody under the bus here, but from what I understand, they are also a ruthless organization and are known for being underhanded. I know very little about them. I'm going based entirely on reports that I've seen online and conversations that have happened around here.
uh, I mean, so yeah, I feel bad for the folks at the SWT. I mean, the other thing is I don't like we let them know verbally.
Yeah.
Um, I if you tell me something's okay verbally, but I don't have it in writing, and you could sue me,
Or at least on video.
I'm not. Yeah, like I don't know if that, like if I were trying to avoid litigation, if I would take that as
Yeah.
I would feel comfortable with
Yeah.
that.
The closest I'm doing is you're holding up a newspaper with today's date and you're
I'll
saying it
record
into a
you.
video. That's the only way it's even possible. And then today you could claim deep fake anyway. So no.
Yeah, it's so if you
I
say,
might
oh
want
yeah,
to
we
take a
won't.
picture of you signing the thing when you put it in writing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's so yeah. If you don't have, if we just tell you, I mean, because it didn't say that they had their permission. Well, all they said is that we're not going to enforce our
Yeah.
rights. We're not going to sue you for
This
this,
time.
but this time. But you never know. So it it definitely, I can't blame the SWT for canceling under those
Yeah.
circumstances.
Yeah. It's definitely unfortunate for everybody who has money out for this event already. It's unfortunate for people who have enjoyed being part of this. There are people who do not want to participate in the, what do they call it? The Panda Cup? Whatever. Weird naming from this other organization. But maybe that's a difference, right? SWT has the word Smash in it, and Panda never mentions it in their branding. Yeah, that could be a differentiator. It may not be. There are these levels where you could find everything completely above board, or there's these levels of conspiracy theory all underneath, and all of them seem plausible. So that makes the story weird and really interesting. My suspicion is that Panda at some point is going to say something because their brand has been impugned throughout this, both by SWT and through lots of people on YouTube for sure. The brand has been hit pretty hard. So I imagine they're going to respond to this, and I look forward to that, and I will keep an eye out for it. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course hit the notification bell, because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.